Silksong and finishing the game. I have edited this video much more than my other Silksong episodes because I wanted to, cut to all of the action-packed stuff. So today we will be fighting the 3 heart bosses from Act 3. Also, I mean it's obvious by now, of course, but this video will be full of spoilers. In this video, will also include my trip to the surface of Silksong, going through the platforming challenge that leads you up to the barren wastelands of Hollow Knight's service. But first, we are ascending the Coral Tower of Crust King Khann. Crust King Khann. So, the primary gameplay premise for Act 3 of Silksong is that you have to collect 3 hearts from legendary figures in Farloom. The snail shamans will then use these hearts to help you travel into your memories and return with the flower that can repel void, which will allow you to descend into the void and destroy Lace, which will stop Grandmother Silk from being so protective of her daughter that she fights against the trappings of the void, which threatens the survival of Farloom. So, the first of the hearts that I went for is Crust King Khann's, an old ruler who once inhabited these lands. I really enjoy this segment. It's so much more colorful than much of Silksong, or at least colorful in a different way, with its rich blue and red and purple hues. We also have a more aquatic sort of aesthetic here, which is unique in Farloom. I mean, you go through the coral areas to get up here, but traveling into the memory of Crust King Khann is sort of a whole new level. am a Reaper Crest user. As soon as I acquired the Reaper Crest, which was the first crest that I found, I have never taken it off, except for, when you are forced to equip a new crest whenever you discover it. So, I had heard a little bit about Crust King Khann before doing this. I tried to avoid spoilers for Silksong as much as I could, but I also was watching, enough Silksong videos that the algorithm was feeding me a lot. And fortunately, most people were chill about, putting spoilers in the titles or thumbnails or whatever, but, occasionally I did stumble into a spoiler or two. So, I had heard a little bit about Crust King Khann from some comment sections mainly. And what I heard was that there was this horrible gauntlet that you had to face every time you fought him. So I was expecting something really bad, but as it turns out, it's really not an issue almost at all. You just have to clear a certain number of arenas, and then you get a shortcut that lets you skip all of those arenas every time that you fight Crust King Khann again. So, in reality, you only have to fight one battle every time you fight Crust King Khann. But, if you're, I guess people were probably struggling with the arena battles before you reach the shortcut, which is fair, Part of the issue when talking about difficulty is that we are all differently prepared at different sections of the game. At this point, I think I had like every upgrade in the game, I'm pretty sure. I know I hadn't bought the third nail upgrade for a while into Act 3, but I kind of think at this point I had already purchased that, and I have all of the mask shards at this point, I think. So, I'm about as strong as I can be. And if somebody else, came here with fewer upgrades than I have, they would be having a harder time, so that's one of the tricky things when we talk about difficulty in Silksong, which is a popular topic. We're all at different places when we encounter certain challenges. And of course that heavily influences how we think about difficulty. So this arena here is the only one that you have to actually do every time before attempting the boss, which isn't so bad, because Crust King Khann is pretty easy in my opinion. He's maybe a little bit harder than the clockwork dancers or cogwork dancers, because all of his attacks are so heavily telegraphed that, you know, it's pretty simple to avoid stuff. Also, it was very satisfying in this arena fight, the number of times that you can just knock the enemies into the spikes and insta-kill them. And yeah, I've edited out my deaths just because I didn't want the video to take forever. So, I'll try to remember kind of roughly how long each boss took me. This one wasn't that bad. I believe this one was about... I'm trying to remember my recordings because I recorded each of these memory attempts in like segments. Oh, but I was also thinking I could read the lore for these bosses. So, Crust King Khann's journal entry says, hardened warrior lord of a bygone age, able to command the coral crust to his bidding. For his stern stewardship, his legion seemed utterly loyal. For less combative bugs, his reign would have been a hard to rule. But Crust King Khann took me, I think this one was about like 20 to 30 minutes, from the start of the memory, clearing those arenas, until I beat Khann himself. He was kind of the middle difficulty of the hearts. I'm sure you all can imagine which the easy one is. And then Karmelita was pretty tricky. I think she took me like 45 minutes to an hour or so. But yeah, Crust King Khann, you can see everything is very telegraphed. You get all of these sort of screen effects telling you where the deadly areas of the screen are going to be. Honestly, the trickiest part of it for me was avoiding Khann's actual body, trying not to touch him specifically because you're avoiding all of the coral spears and stuff. But then Khann is jumping around and doing these very quick location shifts, and that got a little tricky for me. I think most of my damage here is coming from bumping into him, or at least a lot of it is. I was also thinking we could talk a little bit about Silksong difficulty stuff. I think I want to do a proper Silksong review video. Our claws to crush, our claws to rule, our claws to save them all. So I will, talk more fully about my Silksong thoughts in that review. But I was thinking we could talk a bit about after Crust King Khann, I went for Nyleth, the Heart of the Woods, the Pollen Heart, I think it's called. Oh, pardon me, that's wrong. I went for Karmelita next. Pale beast, bringing ruin, we had sensed it. You writing harsh, our final fate. If power you come seeking, mine is fated, mortal, time taken. Great one, I come not to see you as you are, rather I would have you recall what you were before the pale monarch, when once your heart beat bright and brave. That beating heart I would take, though know my intent is worthy. I seek it only to save these lands, to break them free from this fatal sickness born of thread and void. If you may, beast, if you can, mine once was power, wild, proud. So here we have Skarrsinger Karmelita, aged and weak, but in her memories we will find a very different bug. So, this is a very popular fight online. I have seen the general impressions of this fight are very high, and I generally agree with that. I think that this is a wonderful fight. I did really enjoy fighting Karmelita. There's this section beforehand where you have to fight the little arena every time, and I found this not super annoying because it's not too long and not too difficult, but you know, I'm definitely not the type of person that particularly enjoys drawn out return sequences. I really just want to fight the boss, you know? I don't want long run backs or arenas or whatever. But let's read Karmelita's lore. Skarrsinger Karmelita, song queen of the Skarr, and their most talented warrior. This graceful ruler once possessed a skill to rival my own. At her youthful peak, her voice united all Skarr in her service. Let me know if you're interested in a Silksong lore video. I've been thinking I could read journal entries as you know, Silksong lore. So, what were we talking about before? What were we talking about? Karmelita's a very fun boss, kind of dynamic and fast-paced. Lots of you know, darting around, and you have to be very reactive. But I never really found her unfair. There's, you know, the stuff that tends to bother me in boss design is stuff like Crust King Khann, for instance. What I didn't love about Crust King Khann was his repositioning. I found very hard to read. It just seemed like he would randomly dart yourself really surprised by her suddenly repositioning onto you or something like that? Another thing you'll notice is I'm using my tools, flint, slate, and flea brew. This was not something that I really did in Silksong up until Act 3. Also we have defeated Karmelita. Good job, good job. How we hunted, how we sang, my children, I saw you glorious. So, you know, the thing about the tools for me, the consumable tools in Silksong, is that I sort of forgot they were there, like, all the time. And then occasionally I would remember and have a little spurt where I might use them. But I consistently never used them. All I really used in the game, was my needle. I didn't even really remember my silk skills. But in Act 3, I got a bit better about actually using my tools, of which I only used the flea brew and the flint slate because by that point I was so used to just using my needle, you know. Alright, the third hard boss that I went for is the Heart of the Woods. Halt, stranger. I am charged forever to guard the sacred shrine beyond. Any who wish to pass must cross their weapon with my own. Challenge the Guardian. Shrine Guardian Seth. His lore says, eternal defender of the Shellwood Shrine, his pin and symbol show many marks of their use. He offered fair warning and a challenge, a duel in the purest sense. I admire his honor and his skill. So, I have seen online that apparently Shrine Guardian Seth was, designed by a fan of Hollow Knight, who, I don't know the details, but I believe he had cancer, sadly, and wanted to design a character for Silksong. He has tragically passed away, I think. I didn't look into this myself, but this is what I've seen online in, video comments and such. So, rest in peace to Seth, I believe was the fan's name. But yeah, Shrine Guardian Seth, I really like his design. I like how he's this kind of classic sword and shield character. You don't get many of those like sword and board type enemies in Silksong, so it gives him a bit of a unique kind of classic feel. Like how he throws his shield around like he's Captain America. This is definitely the easiest heart of the three. This section is unedited. I did first try both Seth and Nyleth. the seed that sprung the wood. By your grace may all bugs pass safe to join us and our song. So as you can see, in fights, it's not that I have significantly mastered the bosses. It's that I have enough healing capacity to make a lot of mistakes and still win. If I had found the reserve bind tool before I beat the game, I probably would have been using that a lot too. So here we enter the memory of Nyleth. And this is kind of a fun boss fight. I know she's she's easy, but sort of unique and very different from the other bosses that you fight in this game. You have this spiked floor, which eventually the platforms drop out entirely. But the Nyleth lore says ancient heart of shellwood, connected to all its living things. Her presence would once have maintained the wood's fragile order, allowing the safe passage of bugs across its branches. So, Nyleth, kind of the mother of the woods, I suppose, and seems to have had some sort of compact with the citadel to allow pilgrims safe passage. Also, that was a big mistake. I tried to heal because I thought that I was out of Nyleth's range, and I thought that the healing would protect me. But then I got hit, and it is very bad to get hit while you are healing because you lose all of your silk in reserve. And very often when that happens to me, I just straight up lose the fight. It's, almost over in, I don't know, 9 out of 10 cases or something. But yeah, it's made me very, very cautious about healing. You have to really be sure that you're not going to get hit when you heal, because the punishment for getting hit is so damaging. But I'm getting kind of messed up in this fight, aren't I? For all my talk about it being an easy fight, I'm making a lot of mistakes. In my defense, I only played it once, so I was getting used to this stuff. Also, I've been on one mask multiple times in this fight. Kind of stressful. Yeah, I enjoyed this fight. I like that it's unique. Not every fight needs to be really hard. Not every fight needs to be the same kind of thing. We are life. We are growth. What world without us? Plus, Seth and Nyleth together, they sort of feel like a combined boss fight, right? You just walk from Seth directly to Nyleth. So they're kind of the same encounter almost. Obtain the pollen heart. It beats faint and fast. So there we go. We have the 3 hearts. The 3 hearts. 90% of the way to beating the boss based on your skill. Well, maybe the tools can do 10% of the boss's health for you. And so if you get to 90%, tools can seal the deal. But if you're reaching less than that, I'll talk more in a minute. We've got to talk with these shamans. It is time, shamans. I have the hearts, enough as requested. Enough to build your spell, yes. Aye, we're ready. Still, it's a sad set you're holding there. Strength such as few shall ever know, and all about to burn for Farloom's saving. I'll warn you, old one, this first part might not be pleasant, but we'll get you in there, deep as needed. Now you've only to ready yourself for what comes after. Lay up on the dais, and we'll begin. Alright, here we go. The snail shaman spell. So the thing for me with tools is like, if using flint slate could get me an extra 10% of the boss's health, then I'm just wasting it until I can get 90% of the way there on my own skill. And so I have to get good enough at the boss to do enough damage that the flint slate will get me the rest of the way. But by that point, I will have kind of mastered the boss enough that I could probably just beat the boss on my own skill and not need the flint slate. Like, it'll take one or two more attempts. Does that make sense, you know? It's like, the flint slate is like, will push you over the edge to actually beat the boss. But if you're getting close enough to the edge that the flint slate could actually push you over the edge, then you're so close to just getting over the edge on your own skill that the flint slate doesn't make a huge difference. So I would often end up just beating bosses before ever thinking to use my tool. Little baby Hornet. Little baby. Show us your craft, child. Show it splendid, as only we can teach. Prove yourself more weaver than worm. And Hornet shows her silk, The weavers are freaky looking things. They got those giant ball heads. Yeah, so then in the final act of this game, I realized that I was not expending, my resources in the dreams, and so I started to make more of an effort to use the tools more often, because they were just an infinite resource. Whereas in the base game, you have to craft them again with shell shards. And sometimes, I don't like the idea of farming for resources. So that was another reason that I wasn't eager to use tools. Especially because sometimes you would run into a quest where it was like, donate 500 shell shards or whatever. And so I always had this idea in my mind, like, I should not spend my shell shards because what if I need them for a quest? So here we are in the Weaver's Nest, back from Hollow Knight, the first one. is talking to her mother. Ignore them, daughter. They're whispers. Greater, grander, weaver, guardian, queen. Those are their desires, not your own. Certainly not mine. Only if you resist them, you might see it. Another hope beyond. But to recall these words in time so far, will you even remember me, child? Could you? A mother, before the mask, before I lay forever in duty. So, of course, that is Hera, Hornet's mother, and, nice little bit of characterization there where we see that Hornet never really got to spend time with her mother because, of course, as the price of having Hornet, having a child with the Pale King, Hera was put into service as one of the dreamers to lock away the radiance. So she wasn't able to have much of a relationship with her daughter. And here we are wandering through a beehive now. I don't know if we knew this already or if this is like lore that was revealed here, but we see that Hornet had a relationship with the bee queen. Clang, clang, clang. Good. Better. Yet still, you will need to be faster. In time, they will come for you, those who fear your nature, and those seeking to claim it. To survive our world, you must learn to sting, swift and sudden. I think that character, her name was Queen Vespa, if I'm remembering correctly, from Hollow Knight. You do find her in that game, and she is much larger, and also in some kind of like coma or something, maybe. And here, we remember these, don't we? Back in the White Palace, the king's molds, or these are wing molds, right? I don't remember the exact names. But of course, Hornet had another queen of sorts as a mother figure, I suppose. Silksong is very interested in mothers, the relationships that mothers can have with their children, the type of person that a mother can be. Silksong has a lot of mothers, which is interesting. It's definitely a theme that the game wants to explore. So, let's see here. Hornet in the armor of Hollow Nest. Alas, spider's child, for our ways you will think so we must seem, for such is the cost of our wish. Hornet transforms into her red cloak. You are wrong, lady. I knew the wish and the price to achieve it, and now, across these many ages, I have only come to know it better. Strength, in mind, in care, in claw, strength enough that I may live to see a better world than our own, or to craft a world as I desire. That was the wish of my mother, of my mentor, and of you. Indeed, Spider, so much pain you must have passed to speak our hope so simply. For her you become, who knows clear our desire, and has seen fall the darkness beneath our home. I would show you the gift. There we have it. Witness the first light, the only means we possessed to resist that void with which our family is forever linked. Reach forth, child grown strong, rested from this remembrance. Burn yourself free from our sad fate. There we have it, there we have it. Obtained the ever-bloom, fragile flower taken from a deep and distant memory. Its pale light wards against the void. So, with this flower, we can now repel the void that we must overcome if we are to save Farloom. And it seems that in that spell, these snail shamans burnt themselves out. Although they are a sort of suspicious and power-hungry lot, seems that they made a noble sacrifice to save Farloom from the fate that they had a hand in creating. And before we go on, I'm just exploring down here where I end up finding my final crest. Anguished aura, 8 masks hard, swirled soul enraged, 12 acnids flat, all juices strained. 6 pilgrims living, hung long to drain. Spooky. But yeah, was I talking about before the red memory? Talked a little bit about, tools and like, if you use them as I do as kind of just a little small multiplier on top of your own skill, then they, in a strange way, become meaningless because, especially without health bars on the bosses, you don't really know how close you are to beating a boss. Except, like, intuitively guessing, oh, they're on their 3rd phase. I'm probably about to kill them. And so, without a health bar, I passageway, which I'm going to go explore. And it took me a bit to figure out how to get up here. I forgot about dropping through this ceiling in the start of Act 3, so I was looking around trying to find where this passageway was. But of course I need to use Silksong to get up there, as I just figured out there. Yeah, as I said, I was able to avoid spoilers generally for Silksong. I saw, like, pictures of certain bosses, you know, I saw a thumbnail of Skarrsinger Karmelita, for instance, and Nyleth, and Crust Khann. Now that I think about it, actually, I saw, like, all the hard bosses, in advance, and, you know, it's not the end of the world. Like, I don't, the story of Silksong is not the most, it's not what draws me in, and so having certain story elements spoiled is not a huge deal to me. If something, you know, like in Elden Ring or whatever, had been spoiled for me, that would have been a big deal and very annoying to me, because I really love the story of Elden Ring, and, you know, so that would be unfortunate. The story of Silksong doesn't really interest me as much, and so I wouldn't be that sad hearing about certain spoilers. The narrative part of Silksong that I do find compelling more than the plot line is just the characters. I think the character writing is great and very charming. And so if certain things had been spoiled, like, well, I mean, I guess I'll get into spoilers here. I did say at the beginning of the video that, you know, spoilers would happen. But for instance, the end of Garmin and Zaza's storyline I found very touching and impactful, so I would have been sad if that had been spoiled. I was hoping that Sherma would get a bit more interesting of an ending. It's fine, it's not like it's a perfectly reasonable ending. It's like, oh yeah, Sherma became a caretaker and is helping other people. That's like in line with her character, his character. Sherma's a boy. I always forget that. And oh, here we have the severed arm of Grandmother Silk, which we can bind to learn a new silk skill. Pale nails, pale nails. But yeah, something a little more exciting for the ending of Sherma's story, I think would have been fun. I had heard that there was a path to the surface in Silksong, but I got very lucky here, because I didn't know know that this is where it was, but I sort of figured that it would be here. Because of how high this area was. But yeah, I definitely did not find that spot entirely unaided by the internet, just because I had already heard that there was a challenging platforming segment that took you to the surface. One spoiler sort of thing that I didn't really mind getting was the solution to the mist. Because realistically, I don't think that I would have ever solved the puzzle of the mist on my own. I'm a puzzle game lover. In the words of a video game critic that I enjoy, I am a puzzle slut. But that solution to the mist was I was never gonna figure that out on my own, so. And I had wandered around the mist for like probably 45 minutes or something, trying to solve whatever puzzle was going on there. Eventually I was just like, okay, you must need some kind of item. I'll probably find an item at some point that's like, helps you navigate the mysterious mists. But it turns out you just need to plug your needle in and follow the little flies. And I was like, well, shit, I was never gonna get that. So I didn't really mind getting spoiled on that because it honestly probably saved me more frustration of just wandering around trying to figure it out myself. Yeah, trying to think of any other, like, spoilers. I don't think I really had any other major spoilers for this game. Again, besides just, like, occasionally seeing a screen grab of a boss that I hadn't fought yet or something. There's definitely some stuff at the end of the game that, the very end, like the final cutscene, that is pretty big spoiler potential, but I thankfully avoided that. So I got to have those reveals for myself. So this segment here, this platforming area, I've seen a lot of people call it Silksong's Path of Pain, which is just incredibly inaccurate. This is really nothing like the Path of Pain. This is so much easier than the Path of Pain. Which I never did, by the way. I never knew that the Path of Pain even existed until after I had, like, finished. Well, wait. That might not be true. Okay, I'm not entirely sure if this is an accurate memory, but I don't think I knew about the Path of Pain until I had already finished Pantheon 5. Because I did Pantheon 5, I think that's right, because I think I did Pantheon 5, and then I went through and did all of the, other, like, challenges and achievements and stuff. I did, Steel Soul 100% and the speedrun, challenges, and when I was doing those, I started watching a lot of Hollow Knight videos online, challenge runs and stuff. While I was doing speedrun attempts, I would be watching some Scurry or Fireborn or whatever. And I've never seen it myself. So anyway, that was a long tangent, but that's all just to say, I have never done Path of Pain, but this is nothing like Path of Pain. I've seen those videos, and Path of Pain is way harder than this. But I'm sure they'll add some brutal platforming segment in DLC. The thing about this sequence that I don't find super impressive is it's kind of just the same gimmick over and over again. You're jumping over these spike walls and then using claw line to launch yourself forward and then double jump onto the backside. It's like one move that you just do over and over again. So, it's it was a fun little challenge, but it got a little boring, I guess. Like, there was no variety in the sort of skills that you had to employ in doing it. But, that's okay. It was still, it was fun to do. I enjoyed it. And it was cool to get up to the surface and see what it's like up there. Oh, did we do it? Did we do it? Aha! We have made it. We have made it up. So, up here we see just these wastelands arrayed before us. There's little bugs walking around. If we go out far enough this way, Hornet stops and she says, "Out there lie the endless wastes. If I cross them now, Farloom shall fall to a black fate of my making. My choice is made. I will not abandon its bugs to that grim end. I must descend again and cut them free." So, no running away for Hornet. She is a brave little soldier. Skrill, common crawler that lives beneath the sand. Why so violent, Hornet? Why so violent? Just because New asked you to kill a bunch of animals, you have to do it. Nameless town. Here we have a little crumbling shack. And if you play the needle in here, a little silhouette of a bug appears. But apparently I'm not standing in quite the right spot. And you get the surface memento, worn ornament of the nameless town high above Farloom. But if I play the needle in over here, the ghost returns and says, "Friends seduced, the weaving ones beckon, sweet promises whispered, now only the wind from depths below." So, it sounds as though the weavers, called this one's friends down into Farloom to serve in the Citadel. Skrill, this surface dweller is free of silk, its nature remains its own. shoot. Better talk now. Better now, even. If you're planning another descent, head down, holla, and I'll get you going. Your work is appreciated, sir. Know that, with luck, the threat from below might soon be quelled, and your lands shall rest calm. Well, good. I'm only really wishing the return of the forge and more regular duties, a little purpose, routine. Frankly, miss, all these actions more than a bit overwhelming for bugs like me. I'll be glad when it's all over, providing we survive, of course. Alright. Bello has, fixed it for us. Holla when you're ready, miss. The upgrades are done. That bell's as ready as it'll ever be. So we can descend back into the void. The lore of Silksong, the sort of story of Farloom, is not super clear to me. I was thinking of doing a lore video, but frankly, I don't feel that I have enough understanding of it all to do that. So I could do a lore reading where I'm reading like the Hunter's Journal. But in terms of doing a sort of world lore video, I don't know that that's in the near future. I don't know, I sort of feel like I've been getting to understand it more, but there's just certain large questions that I still have that are hard to answer. You know, it's like, you know, for a while it was like, okay, what's the deal with the Citadel? I've seen people say that the Citadel sings Grandmother Silk to sleep. I don't know where that lore comes from. I've seen that online said repeatedly by various people. So I'm sure that is said somewhere, because I've seen it so many times. But I don't know where that lore comes from. So, for example, you know, that's a huge deal, right? Why, like, how is the Citadel, you know, is the Citadel putting Grandmother Silk to sleep? I mean, clearly it's not now, because she has dispatched her silken threads in the haunting. Child, I hold the means to descend. Let us meet one final time, and quell this black ruin of our making. Who are you hoping you'll find down there, Spider? An alien child, and a silk-starved beast? If so, I'm afraid we may sorely disappoint. What waits below is me no longer. Even if only your shadow remains to release your mother's grip, my blade would see it slain. Then why hold even this moment? Surely terror hasn't suddenly claimed your hardened heart. Take the final plunge, Spider. Join us in my drowning palace, and let oblivion swallow us all. Oblivion may take you, child. My own life I shall not sacrifice. I have survived the fury of your land. I have poured its barbs and its blades, and I have seen wonder behind its dangers. But always, child, I remain a daughter of Hallownest, and the void below all things. That darkness I will fear no longer. This part is, I mean, it's just epic. It's actually epic. Like, it's so good. The music here goes so hard. Christopher Larkin knocked this game out of the park. I will read some of the journal entries as we're starting this fight. Lace's entry is manic fencer who delights in battle, a bug born entirely of thread. Much silk would have been needed to see her sustained. A fragile form of life, but life nonetheless. This cutscene is so sick. Kinda reminds me of Gandalf falling in the mines of Moria, sparring with the Balrog, plunging down to the bottom of all things. And here, in this cocoon leaking with void, we find Grandmother Silk hanging on the wall, and the final boss of the game, Lost Lace. Silk spun child possessed by the void, to quell the mother's rage and see this kingdom saved. I will claim her back. This one the dark shall not take. So this is my victorious run against Lost Lace. One thing I noticed right away is that I got my cocoon back almost immediately. This fight took me about 90 minutes, and one of the strategies that I developed during it was to leave my cocoon. Oh dang, I got hit while healing. That's a bad thing to happen. I would leave my cocoon on the field and use it as like a resource pool for later in the fight if I needed a quick top up on silk. I'll also read Grandmother Silk's journal entry. Monarch of Farloom and of the primal source of silk, heart of the haunting, long lulled to slumber and desperate to wake. Oh, there we go. The higher being's threads stretched throughout Farloom, snaring its bugs and driving them to madness and discord. There you go, long lulled to slumber, okay. I guess that's, and there's probably other sources for that lore, but, the idea that the Citadel sings Grandmother Silk to sleep. Yeah, there's just a lot of questions I have about the lore still, so I'm not sure that I'm in a place where I can make an in-depth lore video. But we have defeated Silk's second phase there. Pardon me, Laces. Yeah, this seems like it's maybe not my cleanest run of this fight, but it's the one that I won with, so there you go. Also, I mean, you can see at this point, I still haven't used any tools. I think I do in this final phase. I think we kind of barely defeat Lace here. I get a little face tanky at the end and just try to power my way through, which is never a good idea. a lot of black on black going on. It's hard to see things sometimes. And then if I was sprinting across the arena, sometimes she would suddenly pop up in the muck, like right under me. But that's not, I mean, you can plan around that, just don't go sprinting through the arena. But that was one of those things where I was like, oh, come on, I was just like running through an empty area. But yeah, Lace is a great fight. I think she's a good way to end the game. I kind of thought that there would be, not kind of, I definitely thought that after we finished fighting Lace, we would fight Grandmother Silk, or, as part of the boss fight, we would fight Grandmother Silk. Partially because her, as the Act 2 boss, was a total pushover, and just really, really easy. And so I thought it was, it really felt to me like, oh, they made Act 2 Grandmother Silk super easy, and they're gonna have a tougher, upgraded version of her, as part of the final boss fight. But that didn't happen. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed Act 3. I have complained in previous videos about my feelings around the structure of Act 3, how you obtain it, which I thought was kind of lame. But I've talked about that before, and I won't beat that dead horse anymore. But the actual content of Act 3 I found very exciting. I don't know, I would have some critiques about it, I guess. I don't really care for the void infected enemies. I don't really love how you get the Silksong, and then it's like you have to go over. Now there's just all these new hidden spots on the map that you could only access with Silksong. It becomes very much what I don't like in Metroidvanias, where you're just wandering around areas you've been through before, trying to find secrets. But all of that Silksong stuff is, mostly optional anyways, so not really a big problem. And, Grandmother Silk, now that we are going to, help escape with her child, is going to, charge us up with silk and give us the power to launch high up into the abyss in an attempt to escape. However, we do not get far enough, and we lose the flower that repels the void. I've been saying the abyss, the void. Synonymous, right? And there we go. Hornet is sitting duck, except, what's this? Somebody is saving Hornet. Oh my god. It's the Hollow Knight. Sorry of the Knight. I know, I always call him the Hollow Knight. He's actually just the Knight, right? That's what people call him, or Ghost, I think. I see people call him Ghost as well. And he safely carries his half-sister back to the surface. And this part, I have to admit, this part made me laugh out loud when I watched this cutscene. you see her standing up in 2 dimensions all the time. And it just looks like, a regular little character design. Like she's got some big pantaloons and then skinny little legs. Very normal in Silksong. But then you see that cutscene where she's lying on her side, and she's just so cheeked up that her legs are like sticking out and hanging to the ground. It's just, I know it was the last cutscene, but that had me guffawing when I saw it. But anyway, yeah, that is the end of Hollow Knight Silksong. So just playing the credits here. But yeah, I don't know, Act 3 I found, I guess here's how I'll put it, Act 3 from a Silksong for me, Hollow Knight, has a couple different fun aspects, right? There's the combat that attracts me, mainly the boss fights, and then there's the exploration, and then there's also, narrative story, that stuff, but in terms of, gameplay, I am attracted by the boss fights, the combat, and the sense of exploration in the world. Act 3, I found, became completely devoid of interest for me in terms of exploration. Also, extra special things, 2,158 Kickstarter backers, and Seth Goldman. I believe that is the inspiration for Seth. So, that's a lovely tribute that they put him so prominently in the credits. Through the darkness and dangers you persevered. Thank you for exploring the worlds of Hollow Knight Silksong. Let's meet again on the road ahead, Team Cherry. I love a little thank you message from the developers. I think it's so sweet and sincere when I see that in games. Game completion 94%, 49.5 hours. And I think that's pretty accurate. I didn't leave the game running too often. It happened a few times where I was just sitting in Bellhart or whatever, but for the most part I think that's pretty spot on. But yeah, I will, I guess I'll finish my thought about Act 3, just because I started talking, but I found Act 3 to be pretty devoid of interest in terms of exploration and discovery and stuff. It became a lot of backtracking through the map, which was kind of tedious. So, in that sense, Act 3 wasn't great. But that's not really what Act 3 was about. What it was about was, the new bosses. And I think Act 3 excelled in that sense. The actual meat of Act 3 I thought was fantastic. Even though the world design and exploration kind of collapsed into nothingness. And also they had all the void-touched enemies everywhere, and I didn't find that interesting at all, really. You're just fighting the same enemies, but they have a handful of new moves. But all of the enemies have the same handful of new moves. So, I don't know, it just felt tedious. those husk, like, globs, the new enemy type. Those were very tedious. They just had a lot of health, but everything did do damage, which wasn't, by the level of strength you're at in Act 3, it wasn't a big deal, but yeah, I thought a large chunk of what made the game compelling kind of collapsed into boringness in Act 3, but that doesn't really make me hate Act 3 as a whole, because when I think of Act 3, I'm just going to be thinking of the bosses, I'm going to be thinking of Khann, I'm going to be thinking of that stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of my feelings. Oh yeah, there was some stuff that I forgot to record. I forgot to record my fight with the Crow Father. Is that his name? The Craw Father. When you get, like, judged by the Craws, that was a fun little fight. I forgot to record Lost for Danya, which was, I didn't really care for too much. I thought that was kind of boring. I thought the Clover Dancers boss was just a worse version of the Cogwork Dancers. Okay, also, I was so sure that those were, like, gay, incestuous praying mantises. Like, I thought that the princes were brothers. I was so, after playing that segment, I was like, oh my god, they're doing like an incest storyline. That's kind of weird. But then I saw online that apparently they're not brothers, so I misinterpreted that, I guess. But I swear there was, like, it felt like a lot of the lore there was hinting at them being brothers. So anyway, sorry, that was a random note to end that one. I think I definitely want to do a Silksong review video where I will just be rambling about the game and my thoughts on it. But until then, thank you for joining me on this playthrough of the game. I don't normally do, full-length game playthroughs. Not that that's even what this was. This was heavily pared down. But, yeah, it was fun to do. And if you've watched the whole series, thank you. And I hope that you enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed Hollow Knight Silksong, and I'll talk more about that in my review. But until next time, my friends, thank you for joining me. Please take care of yourselves.